Great day yesterday, a number of tremendous speakers, great conversation last night at the little reception, the stand-up reception, where we continued to discuss and debate some of the key points that were made throughout the day. And that is the reason why we have the reception. It was not to libate, Colonel Madonna. It was to educate, discuss, and hold discourse. But it's now my honor and my distinct pleasure to introduce a man who is no stranger to the theme of our McCain Conference, the main theme, which was ethical dimensions of extraordinary national challenges. And that would be our 61st Superintendent of the United States Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Michael H. Miller. Admiral Miller hails from Minot, North Dakota, which, he had salt, could smell the salt spray from Minot, and he reported to the United States Naval Academy and graduated with the class of 1974. During his 39 years of selfless service to both the Navy and this great country, Admiral Miller served in a number of command and high-level staff tours. I'll just touch on a couple of them. Had the opportunity to command a squadron, an aircraft squadron, during the first Gulf War, forward deployed in the North Arabian Gulf. He also commanded the USS Coronado, which is the 3rd Fleet flagship where the 3-star admiral rides on, and that position does not suffer fools lightly. So you can understand we picked somebody who is going to run that ship and make sure it is where it's supposed to be and all the comms are working. So he commanded the USS Coronado. Came back later and commanded the USS John F. Kennedy, the aircraft carrier, 1999 to 2000, and immediately deployed the Kennedy to the North Arabian Gulf. And his last big command, he boomeranged back around in about 2006, and he commanded the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group. And for those of you not familiar with the Carrier Strike Group, it's not only the aircraft carrier, which is the mainstay of the Carrier Strike Group, obviously, but it's 4 to 5 additional ships, cruiser, destroyers, and on occasion a submarine. And the commander of the strike group orchestrates all those instruments, and in this case, utilized to support both the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. Moving back to Washington, D.C. to cover a couple tours, Admiral Miller was the Deputy Assistant to the President of the United States, and he was the first active duty director of the White House military staff. And his final tour before becoming the Superintendent in August of 2010, he was the Chief of Legislative Affairs. That is the individual in the Department of the Navy who orchestrates all Navy matters with both the House and the Senate, mainly the 2 Armed Services Committee, but it goes across all 435 plus the other 100. Any challenge, any problem, any question, the Chief of Legislative Affairs is responsible to answer. So, without further ado, please join me in a warm welcome for our Superintendent, Vice Admiral Michael H. Miller. Admiral, hoorah. Thank you, sir.
General, you always embarrass and humble me, but and I would tell you, this is of course one of our crown jewels. I sincerely appreciate all of you coming. Everybody's got busy lives to lead, and I'm always hesitant to come to any such distinguished group in the middle of the dialogue. It reminds me of that one scene that Monty Python did, where the central character shows up, and Jesus is giving the lecture from the Mount of Olives, and he's in the back and he's trying to make sure he's got the right point, and he says, "I didn't hear that. What did they say?" And he says, "I think he said, 'Blessed are the cheese makers.'" and so if perhaps I miss a few points because I missed yesterday, I hope you'll forgive me. It's interesting to me that one of the first places that the Department of Defense went when the sequester came about was, we're going to cut all of our conferences. We're going to stop doing conferences. And I kind of part company with our friends that wear green eye shades. Certainly we must be, in the Department of Defense and across the government, we have to be more cost conscious. I'm the first to admit it. But I see the wisdom in having an opportunity to have the interaction, the exchange of ideas that must propel the United States into the future. There is no doubt that with the ethical challenges of extraordinary national challenges, a theme no more relevant than today. And of course, I will say it because they're here. They'll be on the yard here today. Thanks to the generosity of Cindy McCain, we were able to still conduct this conference while the government was not going to provide the funding for it. Thanks to that sort of philanthropy, we can continue to have the dialogue. That's the way that we must pave our path to the future. But of course, the senator who was a great member of the class of '58 will be here as they celebrate their reunion here later today. I'm going to harken back though to another point in time, 209 years ago this very weekend, to the Battle of Dern. Now, for my friends that wear the Marine red and gold, it's a reminder to me of how history can be shaped by a very small select group of people. And for those of you that have forgotten the story of where we were in battling the Barbary pirates, there had the country of what we would typically today refer to as Libya had been basically seized by the brother of the legitimate king. And so the American consul over there, a gentleman by the name of Eaton, decided to make himself the commander-in-chief of the foreign army, raised a bunch of mercenaries, and with the help of a brilliant Marine, decided to lay siege to the province and the city of Tripoli. But to do so, he had to get to Dern, and he did so with some pretty accomplished naval officers, I would say. Oliver Hazard Perry commanded the Nautilus, Samuel Evans commanded the Hornet, and Isaac Hull commanded the Argus, and they laid siege to the city while this group, this army, marched from Egypt across the Libyan deserts into the small town of Dern. But it was Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon that led the charge that essentially, I mean, and it was a brilliant maneuver, and it was coalition warfare at its first inception. But in doing so, in restoring Hamid Karamanli to the rightful heir to the throne, he was presented with the Marmaluke sword, which to this very day is the recognition of the warfighter and the warfighting ethos of the Marine Corps. We still sing about it, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. I'm not saying that this would be the model for our discussion about overseas intervention nor empowering consulates to raise general armies in foreign nations. But it was an inflection point in a very important dialogue about where our nation should be. The Stars and Stripes were raised over the fort in Dern 209 years ago, the first time the Stars and Stripes had ever been seen in a foreign country outside of outside of North America. And it's the consideration of the proper utilization of force, the balance of the civilian-military dialogue that must be, I think, a central focus of every conference that we hold here at the Naval Academy. There's no doubt that challenges remain before us, but the only way you prepare for it is to have this discussion. And so I'm delighted that you all would take the time. I hope that no one leaves the conference with questions. Most assuredly, I hope that everyone has a chance to see the campus and not just build the friendships here, but also build the lasting relationships with this school that I think will continue to serve as a platform for many more successful discussions in the future. I thank you for your time, and I'm sorry I missed yesterday, but I'm delighted that I'm here today to hear Henrik and to have a chance to interact with you all. Thank you very much.